the Durham Bulls podcast, and the emphasis is on the, because every week we'll celebrate the rich history and tradition, the stars and the stories of the Durham Bulls. I'm Patrick Kinas, and I have the honor of flying this plane through the baseball skies for you, and you can find the Durham Bulls podcast pretty much everywhere. You can listen and follow us on Spotify and Apple on your favorite audio podcast platforms. If you want to watch the podcast, Lord willing, you can check us out and subscribe to the Durham Bulls podcast on YouTube. You can leave your comments, questions, and your guest recommendations right there, and we'll get to some of those during future podcasts. So as you just heard, our brand new intro music, there's probably not enough percussion in that music to satisfy our first guest, but maybe he can bring his Congas on his next appearance with us when he has an off day coming up in Chicago. So for me, this is a really special show and one of the most special guests that I wanted to have on because he was a manager of the Durham Bulls for my very first game as a broadcaster with Durham. His number 25 hangs on our wall right here at the DBAP. He's won more games than any Bulls manager in its history, and I'm honored to be able to call him one of my great friends. It's number 25, Charlie Montoyo. My friend,
what's
welcome.
up, Patrick? How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
You bring a smile to my face. You know, we have such a good time there. And again, like I said before, once a Bull, you're always a Bull, man. That's just one of the best places in the minor leagues, if not the best. Of course, I think he's the best, but some other people might say no. But to me, it's the best place.
Well,
in the minor leagues, not even close.
Well, Charlie, you were here long enough to make that a pretty accurate assessment, right?
yes, and I'm very lucky. I don't take 1 minute for granted of the time that I had there in Durham, North Carolina. It was just great time, but what made the great time was the people that I worked for. You know, you and everybody else. I don't want to start mentioning names because then I forget one and they say, "Oh, you didn't say my name," so they know who I'm talking about.
Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate your time. You're always part of our family. We're lucky to be part of your family. And for those of you actually watching on YouTube right now, Charlie spared no expense. He actually saved at least one Durham Bulls t-shirt because he's wearing it right now. Did it take you a while to find that?
No, I got them everywhere. It's my favorite place to be.
So describe that t-shirt for us. What are you wearing?
It was easy, you know. I got friends there. I sent teachers there. They sent teachers to me. We've been in touch forever since I left that place. So, yeah, it's just a normal Durham Bulls shirt. And by the way, I do carry my Congas everywhere. So
we'll get to that because I hear
we don't have to play any.
No, you can play something for us, but I've heard you've actually cut a couple of records in Chicago last summer. So I'm anxious to hear that story. So Charlie, so the gist of the podcast is this. It's really simple for all of the great players and all the great coaches and managers and the fans and the front office members and mascots, you name it. Everybody has a special story and certain memories about their time in Durham. And you had the opportunity to spend a lot of days and summers here in Durham. What do you remember about the very first day where you came here to Durham back in 2007? What was that like for you?
Well, I always wanted to get there, of course, because as you know, as everybody knows, I was in the minor league system with the Rays for a long time. And then once I get to AA, I was there for 4 years in Montgomery. And so being in Montgomery, you know, the next level is Durham. So I was always that guy that was never thinking big leagues. I was thinking, okay, my next level was Durham. So, you know, from talking to Bill Evers all those years, I knew that was just a great place to be. But it doesn't, you only know that when you get there, and when you spend time there, then oh, Bill, you were right. Actually, it's a lot better than I thought, you know. So yeah, it was just awesome getting there. That was the biggest for me to get into there in North Carolina.
So then now let's fast forward to the last day, and we'll fill in the gaps as we move on this podcast. But what do you remember about your last day in Durham? Because I have memories about that.
So the one thing I remember when I got the call from Kevin Cash that I was going to the big leagues, it was one of those like, man, I'm leaving a good place. It was almost like when I was with the Rays and I got the call to go someplace else to manage. I said, man, I'm leaving a good place. So I felt the same way. It was like back to back places that I left that I was happy at. I didn't really want to leave, to tell you the truth. But of course, you're moving up, and that's part of coaching and moving up in baseball. So
Right.
yeah, it was sad for me to leave that place because it was family. I mean,
Yeah.
Mike, everybody else, Scotty, they're all family to me. Brian, and of course, I'm mentioning names now. I don't want to because I want to forget names, but I have to mention those three guys for sure, and Mr. Jim Goodman, of course.
Absolutely. So, Facebook is funny. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I hate it. I like it when memories pop up with photos. And basically, it was almost 9 years ago to the day, maybe a couple of weeks ago, where there's a picture of me and you in your manager's office, and you basically with a bag over your shoulder, because fans may not know this, but you almost felt like you were never going to leave Durham. So you never packed up your office. You just left it here, assuming you're going to come back the following April and be the Bulls manager again. You had to come here to clean out your office, knowing you were never going to come back here again.
Yeah, and that was very sad. And again, my wife, my kids, they grew up in Durham when you think about it, and so it was family, it was home for us. Like looking back, I said, I wish I would have moved there in 2007. So I would have been with the family the whole year.
Because you
But
had just bought a house somewhere else, right? Because you're tired of moving the family and going away and coming back and not having a place that felt like home, right?
so that's a funny story. That's why it's always tough to move in baseball because I was in Tucson first, then I moved to Brandon. That's the Tampa area because I figured I was gonna be in Orlando for a long time, and it was like in between St. Petersburg, and so I said, okay, I'll move there. And then the following year they moved to Montgomery. I said, okay, that's the last time I move. And then went back to Tucson, came back to Tucson.
Well, so what are some of your fondest memories of Durham? Whether it was, in the clubhouse, traveling with the team, certain players. So when you think about Durham, what are the first, couple of memories that pop into your head?
My friendships, my friendship with everybody, and again, that's the one thing with the Rays. They usually, not usually, they have good teams there all the time, and that's such a good franchise, and we always competed, and that was fun, because some people forget this is development. Hey, you develop players by winning. And that's one thing the Rays did pretty good down there in Northern in Durham in all the levels. They teach winning championship, baseball.
All right, so I'm going to run through some numbers because for some fans, they may have forgotten. For some fans, they may just be kind of reconnecting with Charlie Montoyo. But in your time with the Bulls, you were here 8 years. You won 7 titles in the division. You went to the Governor's Cup championship 6 times. You won the Governor's Cup twice. You won a AAA national championship. You won 633 games. As you mentioned, it is really extraordinarily difficult, especially at AAA, to have competitive teams year after year. Every year, the Tampa Bay Rays and the Durham Bulls not only were competitive, they were the envy of the International League seemingly every year. Do you have a different appreciation for that now that you've been through the rigors of the Rays and Toronto and now with the White Sox on how difficult it is to contend on an annual basis?
Yeah, that's why I think it was even more special because not only we were competing, but the Rays were competing too. So I mean, every year they were taking the best players, and rightly so because they were also competing to win in the big league. So that's tough to do when you win in both places at the same time, and we were able to do that for my whole 7 years there, 8 years. So it's 8 years. Let me not take 7, 8 years. Yeah. So having both teams, the big league and the AAA team competing, that's just not easy to do. I don't think many teams can do that.
Yeah. So you mentioned your 8 years here in Durham. The only year you did not win a division title, coincidentally, I hope is only the case, was 2012, which was my first year with the Bulls. It was Mike Sandoval's first year with the Bulls, who's now the head trainer for the Tampa Bay Rays. And I can't tell you over the course of that year how much ribbing that I took and Sandoval also took, thinking that we were the cause of the worst Durham Bulls season in Charlie Montoyo's history. You're about ready to get rid of us.
Who told you that? Dave Myers?
No, I heard it from a lot of people.
Yeah, but again, when you think about it, competing 7 out of 8 and having the big league team be that good, it's just not that easy to do. So looking back, don't feel that bad. It wasn't you.
I'm glad you've forgiven me for that.
We were due to have a social year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard a lot from Dave, a lot from Neil Allen, and basically anybody else in the front office.
And
So I remember
it had
you and I
nothing
had
to
several.
Patrick, it had nothing to do with the left-handed lineup.
No, of course not.
Before
You're
you say it.
looking for some other reason, some other purpose why. So you and I had many conversations about if you would ever really get the opportunity to get to the major leagues, whether as a coach, whether as a manager. And I remember one conversation we had when your alma mater, Louisiana Tech, had reached out to you. They had an opening, and I'd been working a lot in college baseball, and you kind of pulled me aside and said, what's it like at the college level? Like as you were contemplating maybe leaving pro baseball and going to college, because at that stage we didn't know if Charlie was ever going to get a chance. How much doubt did you have at that stage that despite all of your successes and championships and wins and ability to produce players, that you were ever going to get a chance?
Actually, I think one of the reasons I think I was successful, and I never say something about me like that, but it's because I was never concerned anymore about what's next. I was concerned about doing the best job I could at that level at AAA, and I did that at every level that I was. And you're actually competing for a livelihood. That's all I've done, So I was happy there. If you're gonna be in the minor leagues, such as the best place to be, there's just no reason for me to be upset. Of course, everybody wants to get to the big leagues, but believe me and my family, we were happy in Durham, and of course, the winning helped. Because it doesn't matter where you are, winning cures everything, and just it's just beautiful to win games down in Durham and with the fans, and such a great place.
So what wins are more in the forefront of your mind? Are they the championship Governor's Cup win in Pawtucket in 2013, my second year with the Bulls? Was it back in 09 when he won the Governor's Cup and won the AAA National Championship? Or were there other games?
Yeah, they're all different. They all meant something. Different players, and tell you what, one of my favorite times in Durham was when I told, because we're talking about getting to the next level, right? When I got the call about telling Kirby Yates that he was going to the big leagues. I remember, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I remember telling Neil, do you know what apartment Kirby's staying at? And he goes, not really. So we called Mike Sandoval and said, Mike, could you tell Kirby that to keep it down and that so we made up something so I could go to his apartment and tell him in person because I didn't want to just call him because he was such a good closer at that level, as you know. He was one of the main reasons we won so many games.
Yeah.
Of course, we had an outstanding bullpen, but I don't want to forget Kirby Yates because he was so good. And so I remember going to his room at 1 in the morning to his apartment with Neil, and I just gave him a hug. Well, first thing I said, well, keep it down. But then I said, no, you're going to the big leagues tomorrow and stuff. So that was one of my favorite moments because that's the one good thing about being in AAA, as you know, just telling people that are going to the big leagues, either it's first time or the second time or third time, they're all the same. They just get so happy.
And those players and you clearly will always remember those stories. How many times have you come across Kirby in the big leagues, and how many times has he brought that back up to you?
Yeah, every time I see him, we give a big hug, and he's just a Bull forever. He's just another guy that has success in the big leagues, but he's always going to be a Bull.
And it's funny. I feel like you're reading over my shoulder at some of my notes because I wrote down some players and some characteristics that define them. And there's a group of players and coaches and managers that, to me anyway, had to fight the same fight, right? I have you on that list for, again, just enduring your 17 years with the Rays and getting an opportunity to coach the big leagues and finally getting that chance. Kirby Yates was another because he never was a prospect. He was a 26th round pick. There's a year he had like a 0.5 earned run average for the Bulls and barely got a sniff. And another one of those guys is Merrill Kelly, because I remember at the end of the 2014 season, I was in your manager's office. I think the regular season was almost over. And Merrill, I just happened to be in the right spot at the right time, or the wrong spot at the wrong time. And Merrill came in and mentioned to you that he had an opportunity to go to Korea for the final couple of weeks in the fall. And the discussion was, hey, if the Rays don't have any plans on calling me up and adding me to the 40-man roster, why won't they let me go? And that was a real point of contention because he wanted to go. He didn't feel like he had an opportunity. Next thing you know, he goes to South Korea for 4 years, does incredibly well, comes back in a big league contract. And he's won, 12 games, 3 out of 5 years, and helped Arizona to the World Series appearance a couple of months ago.
Yeah, so Merrill is one of those guys that I could say this now because the Rays have been so successful that it's easy for me to say, well, they were wrong a little bit about Merrill because, man, he was good. He was fun to watch. He was that guy that it was never overpowered. 91, 92. He's actually throwing harder now in the big leagues, but he was fun to watch, and that game in Pawtucket, how he took over and he's just game over. The moment he threw the first pitch, you could tell he's done. They're gonna have no chance. We just got to play a clean game, and we're gonna have a chance to win this game. And I get so happy. I'm sure you do too. And every Bulls fan that see Merrill Kelly pitch in the big leagues, and now see him in the World Series, he's just great. He earned it.
It's amazing because you managed over 2,500 games in the minor leagues, and you could probably recite that Merrill Kelly game in the Governor's Cup pitch by pitch.
Yes. I'm telling you, we knew, oh man, he's on. And again, he was fun to watch. He was fun to watch, and he had to go to Korea. And it's not easy when you do as well as he did in AAA, not get a chance in the big leagues, and then go to Korea. That's not the easiest move ever, and he did it. And now he's in the big leagues, and he's doing great.
So I'm glad that you prefaced that Merrill Kelly story by saying, now that years have passed and now that, time has gone by, I can now say this about Merrill. I wanted to ask you about one odd story that will always stick in the back of my mind. I'm not going to ask you about the Adam Liberatore pitch to Rusney Castillo. I promised you I would not bring that up in Game 4 against Pawtucket in 2014. But earlier in 2014, there was a curious incident involving Mike Montgomery. So Mike Montgomery in late April, I think it was a day game against Scranton, was throwing a no-hitter. Pitch count was right around 100, 105. And do you remember the story? So the bullpen was warming. Andrew Friedman, who was a member of the Rays front office, was in attendance. And Montgomery felt the sellout crowd. And you were ready to take him out of the game, right? And bring in Brad Boxberger. And Montgomery leaves the dugout and he goes back onto the mound to pitch now, right?
Of course, you got to bring the story up.
Would you rather talk about Rusney?
No, that's funny. Oh, believe me, I'll talk about everything. Because one thing about so for the people that know whoever's managing this year in Durham or the year before and stuff, the one thing in AAA you also got to develop. So sometimes you gotta let guys face whoever. No, I'm just talking about that time. It's probably many times that you would think, oh man, no, it's about developing also, and you gotta let the guys. Okay, if you get not pitch to this guy at this level, he's not gonna pitch to whoever, Alex Rodriguez, whoever is in the big leagues. You know what I'm saying? So those are teachable moments. Now going to that one, that was my first time ever, I think, that I got booed in Durham. That was not comfortable, and it was easy. I tell you the whole story because again, I'm not with the Rays anymore, and Andrew Freeman it's had a lot of success with the Dodgers, and we're good friends. So of course, it was I think it was a 17, and I told Neil, if we send him back, you know what's gonna happen? He's gonna have a so quick inning, and now this comes the pressure. If we take him out now, it might be tough. He said, no, he'll do fine, Neil. He's fine. He was right. He had a quick inning, but still it was over 100 and something pitches. So now Andrew Freeman happened to be at the ballpark, and he was right there. And I asked him, and I think I sent the bat boy or somebody to ask him, can we send them back? And by the time I'm asking all this stuff, he already said no chance. And there goes my pitcher to the mound from the other side, not from this side, from the other side. And oh my God. And I had of course, and only talking about good closers, I had a good one in the bullpen too, who's supposed to go up in the next few days. So he had to pitch. The little things that people don't know. But now I had to go get him because my boss, not only my boss, it wasn't Mitch. He was the GM,
Yes.
of the race, telling me take him out. And I do have a family, so that's when I went to the mound and I got the biggest boot ever. And rightly so because that those things then doesn't happen very often. But looking back and now how you see how baseball works now, that's no big deal anymore. In the big leagues, 5 innings you're out, 6 innings you're out. It doesn't matter how good you're pitching.
Charlie, I don't remember who made the first out in the top of that ninth inning, but it was a ground ball. I've never seen you come out of the dugout so fast and walk so fast to the mound. I'm not even sure the throw had gotten to the first baseman by the time you had crossed the first baseline. You were so angry and wanting to get Montgomery out of there as fast as you could.
I wish I could have run back. I walked back, and I heard all the boos. But that was you think about it, that was the only time that something like that I could boo in Durham, and actually rightly so because I could see how the fans wanted to see 3 more outs and somebody throwing a no-hitter.
What a great story. Well, since you said you'd be willing to talk about Rusney and Liberatore, let's go to 2014 in the Governor's Cup Championship, where the Bulls were a strike away from winning back-to-back Governor's Cups each year against Pawtucket. They had won it in 2013. They were up 2-1 in Game 4 and had taken a lead in the ninth inning. And Adam Liberatore, hard throwing, sinker, slider, lefty, gets a couple of strikes on Rusney Castillo with the tying run at second base. And I'm going to let you take over.
You wanted a split, and he threw him a fastball. Is that what it was?
Yeah. All Rusney could hit was a fastball, Charlie. Everybody knew that. Scott Pose and I still talk about that to this day.
Yeah, but that happens at every level in the big leagues everywhere, and of course we're right there, and it was like you said, one strike away. Actually, not one strike away, one breaking pitch away from doing it. But again, Adam was another guy that was great at that level. He pitched great for us. He's another guy who kept pitching well at that level and never got a chance until there at the end. And again, he did okay in the big leagues too, so I was happy for him.
Let me hit you with a couple of just rapid fire questions. Who was the most fun player you ever managed with the Bulls?
There's too many.
Okay.
For me to mention one. Now, one thing that guys that know the Bulls pretty good are gonna laugh at this one because Weber, of course, he was having that great year, and he's just so funny because I love the guy. He was a gamer, and he was great. I love the guy, and he was going for the doubles record or something, and he hit a ball in the gap. But I think even the outfields went down, and he didn't want to make it to a triple. And then he got to second, acting like he was hurting a little bit. And I'm laughing over here. He said, "Dude, stop! I already know what you're trying to do." So that was one of the funniest moments I had because if anybody know Weber, okay,
And was
it was so good to us that those little things like that, as a manager, hey, you've been great. Okay, I'll get it. That's funny.
Are there players when they were with you with the Bulls who have now had overachieving major league careers that maybe you didn't really see coming?
Talking about players, and again, I don't want to talk about players because I'm going to forget somebody, but there's so many that, of course, I'm going to forget too many names. Sure. But talking about players that they were late rounds and all of a sudden they get to the big leagues and they do okay in the big leagues. Justin Ruggiano, it's another one. Yeah. I remember because I was a kind of manager. He came into my office and Justin was pretty confident in his abilities, and rightly so. He was a good player, and he came to me and said, "Hey, I want to hit third." And I said, "You do? But you got to do better than what you're doing." He said, "No, believe me, I'm going to do better hitting third." And the moment he challenged me, yeah, hit me third. I put him at third, and as you guys know, he took over, and I don't know if he was the MVP that year or what, but he had some great years in Durham, and then he got to the big leagues and had some success. So I'm never going to forget that conversation that I had with him, and I loved it. Deep inside, I loved it. Yes. All right, I'll hit you third, see what you can do. And he did pretty well.
Oh, what a great story. So we're winding down with Charlie Montoyo, a longtime Hall of Fame an International League Hall of Fame member of the Durham Bulls. And Charlie, I want to get to another story about a phone call that I received from you. It was, I think, a weekend in October in 2018. And for the fans out there listening who maybe haven't had the pleasure of meeting you and understanding the kind of person and human you are, for all the time that you had spent in the minor leagues, all the time that I had spent in the minor leagues, and our great friendship that evolved in our, 4 years together here with Durham. But we knew each other in Montgomery when you were in Double A and I was in Double A as well. So at that stage, I'll give you a little bit of context. At that stage, I am moonlighting as an Uber and Lyft driver to try and raise some money to buy a new car. My wife thought it was ridiculous, but so at this time, on this day, I'm getting gas at a Shell station on Glenwood Avenue in Raleigh. And as I'm pumping gas, my phone rings, and it's Charlie Montoyo calling. And I answered the phone like, Charlie, hey, what's going on? What's up? What do you need me for? And the message you conveyed to me was, I just wanted to let you know that tomorrow I'm going to be named the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. And you had the just unbelievable character to call me and a select group of other members of the Durham Bulls front office and some key people in your life to notify us before the news broke the next day. And even to this day, when I tell this story to people or just think about it, I still get chills, and I'm just so grateful. So can you do you remember that phone call?
The phone call to you, of course, yeah. All because you're all my family, so it was easy. Of course, I called Mike and Scotty, and of course I had to call you, and Neil, and there's so many guys that knew me, and we spent together time in the trenches. I don't want to call it trenches because it's such a beautiful place, but it gets it into a grind because I just it's not that easy as you guys know, but that I had to give you a call and tell you I didn't know you were pumping gas and you were going through all that. But yes, you were one of the first people that I called.
Yeah, I was about to ask if you needed a Uber ride to Toronto. I needed to raise some money for a new car, Charlie.
That would have taken a lot of money.
That would have helped a lot. So you managed, again, as I mentioned earlier, over 2,500 games in the minor leagues. You had a good opportunity with Toronto for about 3.5 years to manage there. I'm guessing, I mean, you always continue to learn as a manager, no matter how many thousands of games you manage in the minor leagues. What were some of the things that you learned about managing at the major league level versus all of those years in the minors?
Tell you the truth, nothing new. At the end of the day, you have a good bullpen, you're a pretty good manager. If you have a so-so bullpen, not as good. If you have a good starting rotation, you have a chance to win every day. If you don't, it's gonna be struggles in there. So it's funny. Baseball's the same way from the top to little league. It's just you got the players, and the one thing about the big leagues is more talking to the press twice a day, talking to players. And I did the same thing in Durham. So that helped me to get to that level and keep communicating because you have to do it even more in the big leagues. And talking to the press, you use the press to send players a message. If you didn't get to a player, they read everything. So that's what I did with the press. I did use it to send players messages, of course, positive messages.
Well, now you're the bench coach under Pedro Grifol with the Chicago White Sox, entering year number 2. How do you like that role as bench coach? The second time you've done it now.
Yeah. This is gonna be my 3rd year. It's funny because now I've managed almost. Well, I'm not gonna say it. I figured Pete's gonna get thrown out at least once this year, so I'll get to manage another year. So actually, I've managed how many 10 years? I think I managed 8 years now because when I was the bench coach with Kevin, he got thrown a couple of times, so I got to manage those games. And last year was funny because last year when we had that fight with Cleveland, I'm sure you all saw it.
Yeah.
Tim Anderson and the other kid from Cleveland, and I saw Pedro. Ooh, Pedro's gonna get suspended. Now I'm gonna have to manage because I want Pedro to manage. I want him. I'm good. I really did it. And then guess who I get to manage against? The Yankees. We're in my division for 3.5 years, and we happened to have a good game. We won the game, but it's just funny how that works. Yeah, but it seems like I've been managing now for all these years now.
Yeah. And I mentioned this earlier because you're leaning right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, on the Durham Bulls podcast, you're leaning forward against your bongos, which I'm not sure is the same set of bongos that you brought on the road
By
with
the
the
way,
Bulls
I don't want to. There's my Durham Bulls jersey back there. By the way,
in the frame
and
behind you.
yes, yes,
I love it.
I should move a little bit more this way because
Yeah, we
I
need
just
to center
realized
you, center you better in the
that.
shot. We need to frame you up. There we go. Right over that. Yeah, perfect. Right over the left shoulder. Um, so as fans may not know, you played a lot. I don't know if this was your way to kind of decompress or get away from the game, but you would take your bongos on the field at noon before maybe a 7 o'clock game and just play, right?
You know what's funny? That's I love playing music, first of all. So that had nothing to do with decompressing or anything. I just love playing playing music. But I did use that as sending a message to players. Like if a game we had a tough game or something, and all of a sudden they go by the office and they hear the salsa and the congas and stuff, they go, okay, he's fine. So why are we gonna be tied up, tight? So I did use that a lot after games to send players message in the clubhouse like, hey, everything's good. Let's keep it going.
Well, and so I did a little bit of research before the interview today, and something I did not know, but I want to bring up to you. I heard about a group called Montoyo Rocks, right? Can you tell our fans about Montoyo Rocks and maybe the Cubby Bear in Wrigleyville last summer?
Wow.
What
Yeah,
is this?
there's videos everywhere, so there's nowhere to hide. Well, that's first of all, having a good wife helps with that because the Kobe Bear is a salsa club that they play salsa Sunday nights. So my wife researched that for me because she knows I love salsa and I love playing. And the moment I get to meet the band members and I tell them what I do, they give me a chance to play with them at the stage and play the music. And the funny thing about that, they don't know what to expect. But the moment I start playing, okay, this guy knows, so they're more comfortable. So the Burton Rocks is my agent. So he loves music too. So he wanted to do a song. He wanted me to record a song from here from home and send it to him. But I said, okay, I'll do it, Burton. And then when I heard how it sounded, I was surprised. Like it came out pretty good. So I don't know if you have it, but I'll send it to you if you don't have it, so you can play it for your opening
That's our new
debut
theme song.
broadcast.
That should be it, Charlie. I knew there was a good reason to have you on today.
Take me out to the ball game. So,
I love it. I love it. Do
yeah.
we have to pay your royalties for this, Charlie? Do we owe you
No,
dollars?
no, 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 no. Anything for you guys. Not yet, anyways. I'm doing good right now. So let me know.
Well, as we wrap things up on the Durham Bulls podcast, joined by Charlie Montoyo, longtime Hall of Fame, International League, Durham Bulls Hall of Fame manager. And Charlie, first off, thank you for your time. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask how's the family doing? How's life changed for you and Samantha and Tyson and Alex over these last 10 years?
You know what's funny? I was just telling my wife that she just got me an apartment in Chicago for the 20 something year in a row. Like every year we gotta get an apartment because I gotta leave my house for 8 months. That's what people don't know about,
Yeah.
the job that we do. We gotta move and not come back to the house until October. So everybody's doing good. Alex is a sophomore now in high school. It's right there close to the house. And Tyson is a sophomore in college at Pima Junior College here in Arizona. So everybody's doing good.
That
And here comes Dad. I'm leaving Friday for spring training, and there he goes.
uh,
All right, we'll see you in the summertime.
I mean, does it feel like some kind of time warp? Because I mean, you had your two kids, I think, when you were managing the Bulls, right? For both
Yeah,
Tyson and
yeah,
Alex, is that right?
they were raised there. Yeah, they were raised in Durham because
Uh,
back then they could come more time because they were not in school. But once they started school, they only came for the summertime.
yeah. So how has life changed for the Montoya family? I know, for years and years, it's been well documented, and you've been very open about this, that, when you're in the minor leagues year after year, Samantha kept telling you, hey, don't get fired. Don't have too many arguments because we need the insurance, the health insurance for Alex. Um, now that you've been in the big leagues and been part of that health insurance plans, I mean, Are things easier? Are things better as far as that goes? Or what's it like for the Montoya family now?
Yeah, it's almost like I said at the beginning of the podcast that you're still competing for to make a living, and it's just the same way. You're hoping the Chicago White Sox are successful, that Big Fall is successful, so we can be there for a little bit longer. Of course, one of these years I would love to retire and go. I always tell Mike this. I want to go back with Bill Evers and hang around the Durham Bulls ballpark and talk to people, watch some games and stuff. So Bill already retired. So hopefully I don't know how many more years I got, but I'm getting close to 60. So
Well, I mean, is there a desire to manage again? If Charlie Montoya does not, for whatever reason, get the opportunity to manage again, will that be okay with you, or do you feel like you really would like one more real shot at it?
Well, you love this because I know I'll make you laugh the moment I say that. Well, I'm already winning manager, so I'm 500. I don't want to mess it up, so I'm a winning manager. Of course, it depends on the situation. I'm not going to say no. Of course, if that situation comes, but right now, like I always did in the minor leagues, I'm doing now. I just want to be the best bench coach I could be for Pedro Rifal, so he can be successful.
And what does that job look like? I mean, Jared Sandberg was a bench coach with Seattle. He managed after you. You were a bench coach under Kevin Cash for the Rays. For the fans who don't really know what the job description is, what a day-to-day operations of that kind of position is, what is it?
It's basically managing, just giving the manager your ideas, what you think is going to happen, and so it's kind of fun because you're actually managing a game, except you don't get the blame. That's a good part of it.
And you don't have to do all these interviews.
Yeah, I
A lot of hassle.
Yeah, so other than that, it's fun, and hopefully, like I always say, winning helps at any level. So hopefully we'll get going this year, and it'll be a lot better than it was last year.
Well, if fans want to learn more about Charlie Montoyo and your journey that started as a young boy in Florida of Puerto Rico, there's a great article out there that talks about the Nino Del Ora, the
Yeah.
golden child. And what I didn't know, and I felt like I've known you so well, but there are so many things that I learned in that piece. And one is the field on which you played when you were 16 was named for your uncle.
Yeah, who died in Vietnam at the
Mhm.
war. Yeah, yes.
And so you've had to carry not only I don't want to say a burden, that's the wrong word, but the weights, right? The self-imposed pressure of your family and your small town and all these people who saw such brightness in Charlie Montoyo as a young boy. They've followed the progress of your career for decades now.
Yeah, that was one of the beautiful things when I got the Toronto job, going back to Puerto Rico and going around the town and and all the fans and everybody clapping for me and giving me hugs and stuff but the one thing I learned during baseball, like, I kept gaining family. Like it's not only in Puerto Rico, it's in Durham also. It's in Montgomery. It's and of course more Durham than any place because I was there for so long, and our friendships are still even stronger now because even when I was managing all you guys, even though you like the Rays, you deep inside you were
Oh
pulling for
yeah.
me to do well, and that's just because we're family and that's how it goes.
I remember with your first major league game with the Blue Jays, you had some special guests from the Durham Bulls front office. I believe didn't Scott Strickland make a drive to go watch your first game as a manager?
Yeah, yes, you did. Yes, you did. It was in Toronto. Yeah. I don't know. I think I don't know how he got the passport how to get there, but he like that I said that.
I mean, it is about family, and then I wasn't planning on bringing this up, but now that you bring up family and just how family grows and grows and grows, your first year as a manager in the minor leagues was in 1997 with Princeton. But what I read several weeks ago was that you had an opportunity basically given to you to become a player coach in Harrisburg the previous year, right? Because
Yes.
you maybe weren't going to make a squad and maybe the career was winding down. And fill in the gaps there because you talked about family. Vladimir Guerrero Sr. was on that team. You managed his son.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. I remember it was spring training that 95, and I remember for the first time in my career being nervous about every time the workout was over in spring training, going back inside, I might see that pink slip, you know. So hold on now. Like I always say, I'm competing to survive, to make a living. And I remember Bill Gabbett, who was the farm director back then. He ended up being the GM for the Rockies. He called me and said, "I know you want to coach someday, so would you mind going down to Double A and be a player coach?" And I go, "Hey, all right, I'm good." What I didn't know was what a great team that was. That Pat Kelly managed that team, and it was Jose Vidro, it was Black Guerrero. That whole squad was, and we won that league. The whole squad was big leaguers. So it turned out to be a great move for me. I had a lot of fun, learned a lot from Pat Kelly. The only thing I didn't like that I ended up playing too much is no, I don't want to play anymore. And the first reason I keep getting hurt now, I play first or second base and stuff. But ended up being a great situation for me. And going back before that, I saw Tom Foley in spring training. I remember talking to him. He just became the farm director for the Devil Rays, and I played against Tom in the minor leagues. And I told Tom, "Hey, I'm thinking about retiring. So think of me in the off season when you start hiring people." That's how it happened. That's how it happened. October of '96, he calls, "Hey, I want you. You want to be the Princeton manager in '97?" I said, "Yeah, I'll take the job." And that's how it started. I always managing the minor leagues the whole from the beginning.
It's amazing, and now you bring that up and just show how the circle of baseball life moves on. Brandon Gomes, who was on your bullpen, is now the GM of the Dodgers. Stephen Vogt, who was your catcher my first year in 2012, is now the manager of the Indians. Craig Albarnez on that 12 and 13 team is his coach in Cleveland. Luis Cole Figueroa is now in the front office for the Tampa Bay Rays. It seems like dozens of Tampa Bay Rays players who you managed or came across are now
Yes.
in that role, in significant Major League Baseball roles. That's no coincidence, is it?
Yeah, no, no. I mean, Brandon Gomes, he was the up and down guy. Like it was funny because every time I call him, I started laughing because he was laughing too. Okay, when am I leaving? The next flight, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Well, I said, don't pack everything because it might be for a little bit. And I never tell that, but I did it with him so many times that he was
Yeah,
okay. I don't know how long it's gonna be, but and now he's the GM for the
yeah,
Dodgers. Isn't that great? And he's another great kid that
yeah,
he's another bull forever because he was
yeah.
in Durham for a long time and was a great pitcher down there, and now he's the
Yeah.
GM for the Dodgers.
All right. Well, we are going to hear from all of them here in the next few weeks. Brandon Gomes, Stephen Vogt, Craig Alvarez. We're hoping to have both of them on at the same time. You mentioned earlier that you would be open to a Charlie Montoyo, Bill Evers reunion on this podcast. Can I hold you to that?
Of course, yeah, yeah. With anybody, I love. I'm talking Durham Bulls. This is my family, and I'm enjoying every minute of this podcast right now. And a funny thing, if you're talking to Gomsi a couple of years, I don't have a job. Hey, Gomsi.
Remember me? Well, Charlie, I can't thank you first off for just being you and being such a great friend to me over the last 15 years or so. Continued success to you and the White Sox as they rebuild and hopefully compete, start to finish in the Central this year. Thank you for your time. My best to Samantha and the kids. I can't believe they're in college and high school, but I'm thrilled to hear that they're healthy and doing great. And we are all so lucky to have intersected our lives with yours. So thank you for being a guest today.
Thanks, Patrick. It's been my pleasure. My best to everybody down there
All right, you
and
got
your
it. All right.
family.
So
All
there's
right, buddy.
Charlie Montoyo, Hall of Fame manager of the Durham Bulls, current bench coach for the Chicago White Sox, joining us on this episode of the Durham Bulls podcast. Again, you can subscribe on Apple and Spotify for the audio version. Subscribe on YouTube, the Durham Bulls podcast, if you want to watch and see Charlie in his lovely gray Durham Bulls t-shirt that he was able to kind of dust out of his closet earlier today. So for Charlie and our entire crew, Patrick Kinas, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. See you next week on the Durham Bulls podcast.
And Ken Tanner on the TV side is going to talk with the man of the moment. And it is Charlie Montoyo, the winningest manager in Bulls history. Let's go downstairs to Ken.
History, the star of the game is Charlie Montoyo.